Hi everyone and welcome to the LEC preview of the third week of the LEC Summer Split 2022. We're almost at the halfway point now, and even though we're not quite there yet, there is going to be a break next week. So the LEC is going to take a 1 week break off as Riot has their summer holiday, which they do every year apparently, and this time it's planned exactly in the middle of the LEC. Well, not exactly in the middle, it's actually awfully planned. It's after week 3. It would make more sense after week 4, but I guess that is all a secondary or tertiary thought when giving employees time off for a week for Riot. Anyway, this means that next week there is not going to be an LEC preview, obviously, but we still have this week. But before we get into that preview, the usual standings update from my LEC Super Fantasy. I'm just going to show it this time. I'm not going to keep reading out the names every single time. But you see here, standings are pretty much the same still, with Alita is on fire, is now at the top. Luckily, the second place. And yeah, it's all pretty close. I'm working my way up, hopefully. I'm going for some risky strats this week. If you want to play against me, don't forget that I will put a link in the description below to my lobby. It's EU over NA. You can play free to play, it's fun. Although I have to say that this season is not exactly going well for me in contrast to previous season. It's still a lot of fun. But no sense in lingering much longer on that. Congrats to everybody who's now in the top 10. Let's see how you hold up. Yeah, first some thoughts on the teams. Just start with G2. As I said also in the episode of Best in the West, which I did with Veteran again this week, which you can also find on this channel. I think G2 is in a solid place. I'm not too worried about their loss against BDS. This is a team that at this point is just having their fun. They like to spice it up a bit. They like to try things, not go too hard, and they know how to dial it up when they feel like they need to. They're just playing around mostly, which is a good sign for this team because, even if they lose in matches against weaker opponents, it's fine as long as they show good signs against teams that they are expecting to face later on in the season in the playoffs, and teams that they think are contenders for a first place finish. I think that's where G2 really dials it up, and in the other matches they might be playing a bit looser there. So I'm not worried about that. XL 4-1, super solid team all around. I think they are they have the most coherent playstyle of all the teams in the LEC at the moment, and they constantly execute on their strategies very well. This is a team that is trying hard every single game to win because they realize that they should keep their leads. They came into the split, they were ahead, and for them it's really about keeping up and making that finish high of the regular split, because they finished low in the playoffs, so they have not many championship points. So they need to finish high in the regular split. Then based on that, they will also get championship points, and then the LEC will seed according to the total of championship points, obviously. And that means that if XL finishes high, they can still get into the upper bracket of the summer split playoffs. And I think that's why you will see XL try as hard as possible for as many games as possible. Fnatic is in third place, shared with Rogue, Mad Lions, and Astralis, but I think Fnatic is looking very rough. They did go 1-1 last week, but it was overall a bad showing. They barely won against BDS, they lost against Mad Lions. I think the break that they're going to have next week, when the LEC is going to take a step back, is fantastic for Fnatic. It's a great opportunity for this team to come together, take a breath, do some team activities, and build the fundamentals of how you work together as a team, because that is severely lacking in Fnatic at this point. They were pulled over the finish line by Wunder, who was having a fantastic game against BDS, who with his Gragas, as I also discussed on Best in the West, just kept finding fantastic ultimates to keep his team in the game, and then ultimately barely they were able to win that game. But you can't keep relying on individual performances, and especially an opponent like BDS should be defeated easily. So I'm pretty worried about Fnatic at this point. Let's see though. I think this week they're going to struggle a lot again, even though they have relatively easier opponents overall. Especially on the first day. G2 might be a bit difficult, but we'll get to that. I think I'm gonna judge by how they look in week 4, which will be in 2 weeks, to see how certain I am about Fnatic's future in this competition, in this split. But heading into this week, not expecting a whole lot for them. Rogue did look better a bit, I guess. They won against Australis, but they weren't very comfortable, and then they also beat SK Gaming. Those are two teams that Rogue has to beat, obviously. I still think Rogue has a lot of improvement to do. I don't think this is a Rogue at this point that has found the same drive or the same work ethic or whatever you want to call it. They just don't seem to click as well as they did in spring. As you may have seen in my interview with Larson, which is on this channel, he said that Rogue had ego problems, and I think while that might not be the case anymore, they still looked pretty weak, and that might be in light of those ego problems where they felt a bit too good about themselves heading into the split. So now they have catch up to do. Mad Lions, I think Mad Lions is looking pretty solid. Even though they got clapped by XL, absolutely demolished. The floor for this team is way higher already, and they're going to continue to build on this heading forward. And when the summer playoffs come around, which I do expect Mad Lions to make, I do expect them to stand up taller because they have players who perform better in playoffs. We have seen Armut pop off. I also think Oyoya is going to perform better there. And even though I think Oyoya is already looking pretty good, he did have some rough moments last week. So I'm not too worried about Mad Lions. They are, at this point, like I see them as a sub-top team, which reflects in their score as well, who's just calmly finding their progress throughout the split. But for what they are in the split already, I'm pretty happy for them. Australis is obviously looking super good for them. In the 3-2, they already have as many wins this split as they got last split in 8 weeks. So that is a big up for them. But if you look at who they played all the weaker opponents. They played SK, Misfits, and BDS and managed to beat those. And now the real test is going to begin, because now they're going to face all the teams that are expected to finish above them in the standing. So that's going to be very interesting, I think, for them. What they really need to pin down is that top isn't going to get exploited as much because Visik Chachi is having a tough time in the games. And also they need to find a way to have Jonghoon succeed on a champion that is not Pyke, because on Pyke is super good. I fully expect it to be banned for the rest of the split against him, because he is just another player when he's on it. But I think he needs to realize a bit more that he can also go for very heavy roams in this meta with other champions. Then we have Vitality in 2 and 3. I don't think Vitality is looking very good at the moment. Obviously, they went 0-2, which is very bad. Got beaten twice by XL, if you can say it that way, with that remake. They probably wouldn't have won that first game anyway. Yeah, this is still the same team I saw in spring, where it's talented individuals who do not come together as a team. Bo is now in Paris. He has arrived, and obviously in the off-season, Vitality brought Haru and Bo in with a clear mention that Haru was here for now, and then Bo was gonna try to learn English as quickly as possible, and then they were gonna put him in for a longer-term project. And I think at this point, as I suspected already, heading into the trade, I expected, okay, they're gonna try Haru for 4 weeks, and then they're gonna see if it works, and if not, they're gonna sub in Bo, because this team has made way too much of an investment to work to not make Worlds, obviously, financially, and it looks like Bo is already gonna come in week 4. That's just my suspicion, to be clear, but because there's a break next week, Vitality will have extra time to start practicing with Bo, and I fully expect him to make his appearance in week 4, because Haru has been looking pretty rough. Then we have the 3 teams at the bottom with a 1 and 4 score. SK, yeah. There's not too much to say about SK other than they are going to be playing with Gadget, the former Unicorn of Love bot laner, if you know that from his days then, is now been playing in SK Prime, their academy team, but because Jesu has been feeling sick, he can't be playing, so they'll be subbing in Gadget. I don't think it's going to make too much of a difference. SK already looked poor as a team, and I expect it to continue in this week. They don't really have much to build on, other than maybe one of their talents popping off, which they do kind of have, this is a team that might reach like a level 7 position if they really blast on all cylinders. But that's not happening so far, so I'm not holding out too much hope. Misfits did get their first win against SK last week. I don't think that it is a very significant win standings wise for Misfits, because SK Gaming is a team that you absolutely should beat. But maybe this team, like Misfits, found some hope in that game, finding how they want to play. They did a really good job on letting Neon get fed and carry the game forward. So maybe they realize, okay, this is how we want to approach the future games as well, and start building from there. And then we have BDS also in last place with a 1-4 score. Obviously picked up a win against G2 very unexpectedly and went toe-to-toe with Fnatic. Yeah, the late game is still very shit from BDS, but I like that they were going for creative drafts. With the Skarner just YOLOing it. I want to see more of this, because this is how BDS is gonna maybe throw some curveballs and maybe find a bit more comfort in their playing style. So let's see if they are gonna be able to keep that up. I'm very much looking forward to seeing if this team actually can progress now, based on the motivation boost that last week must have been. I don't know, the talent seems to be there. But I do think that it's going to take a while for this team to find a solid mid game, which is what many teams actually struggle with in the LEC. But BDS has good early games and then loses their their late game completely in transition from the mid game. So that's my overall thoughts on the teams. Let's just go into the matches of this week and preview them. So we have Misfits and BDS to kick off the week. Obviously not a very high stakes match in terms of who we think might make playoffs, because both of these teams I don't see making playoffs. But I do think that it's going to be interesting to see which of these teams has learned more from their victory last week. And I would say, even though BDS is a team that has found catastrophical losses in very advantageous positions, I would kind of give it to them overall, because I think that in terms of like team plan, they are a bit ahead of Misfits, where Misfits overall for me has the if all the people there are in shape that we have seen this season, Misfits will win. But I don't expect that to be the case. So I think BDS is going to be coming out on top there. Will be interesting to see if Misfits is going to abuse Neon being a very solid AD carry against Xmeti, who has been struggling a lot, I think. So, yeah, I would say that Misfits overall would need to dial up more than BDS in light of recent results. So I'm going to give it to BDS, but it's a very close game, so it will be interesting to see that result. Then we have Vitality versus SK Gaming. I do think Vitality is going to win this, even though they are not a good team. They are still very good individual players, and that is going to be better than SK, because they are not a good team without a good game plan. And individually, 1-for-1, I would also rate Vitality better in just about every position. You could say that Peak Treats might be better than current Labrov, but current Treats is not better than current Labrov. So and Peak Labrov, which we might not have seen Peak Labrov, right? The Labrov in shape was last summer split, and he looked legitimately like a top support in the LEC. So overall, I think Labrov's ceiling is also higher than that of Treats. Just going to be a matter of who shows up on the day between those two, I guess. But overall, it's very clear that Vitality is the better team to me. Excel versus Rogue. Very interesting game, obviously. Based on the history, you would say Rogue should easily win this. But in this split, I think Excel is going to win this. They have a clear strategy, Rogue doesn't. I think Excel is going to be able to identify exactly what Rogue's weaknesses are, attack them pretty efficiently, and I don't think Rogue has an answer at this point in time, because Rogue as a team has been struggling adapting to how they need to play in this meta. And then we have Fnatic versus Astralis. Also a very interesting match, actually. Fnatic should win this by any means, but Astralis is a team that is going to be able to throw a spanner in the works. A Fnatic that already struggles against BDS last week could just as well lose against Astralis this week. I'm not gonna like ultimately. I would think that Fnatic should win this game, but I just as well could see Astralis win this. It's actually crazy that this is as close to 50-50 as it is for me. But I could very well see Astralis win this. What counter arguments are there? Okay, Wunder has been a much better top laner this split than Physic but if I look at a team plan, Astralis has one. Now I expect Fnatic to ban Jonghoon's Pike, but is that gonna be enough? I would think so, but barely. And the fact that I'm even considering that is actually already very telling of how poor of a state Fnatic is in for me. And overall, I wouldn't be too surprised to see Astralis win it, and simultaneously I would be very surprised and very impressed. But I'm giving it to Fnatic based on individual skill. I think they are ahead of Astralis by quite a margin. And then we end with Mad Lions versus G2. Very, very cool rivalry between those teams. Obviously got a bit dumbed down last split because the Mad Lions wasn't really there. But now both teams are looking better. I expect G2 to win this. I expect them to go full force and to be able to punish everything that Mad Lions wants to do, which is usually have Niski roam and help out his other lanes. I think Caps is going to be way better than Niski because we have seen him. Ooh, that's actually tomorrow's match. Way better than Niski. And because Caps has the same strategy, and I think Caps is better laning than Niski is. So we'll see. Maybe if G2 is brave enough or bold enough or dumb enough, whatever you want to call it, to leave Niski's TF open or his Rise, which is a bit more niche, then Mad Lions is going to be able to find more advantages. But overall, I do think G2 will win this. And then we go to tomorrow, which I already spoiled a little bit yesterday, just now. BDS versus Excel. I don't think I need to explain much more about why I think Excel is going to win this, because they have a much better team strategy than BDS. Rogue versus SK. I think Rogue wins this, even though Rogue has been looking a bit shaky. I don't think SK is a team that is going to be able to put up much of a fight against them. Then we have... oh, that is... man, what is wrong with this thing? There we go. There we have Vitality versus Astralis. Another game which is actually much closer than you would think it has any right to be, because Astralis is a team with a plan that might very well take a game of a team like Vitality, who has not come together quite yet. Now, I do think in the end Vitality is going to win this, but similar to the Fnatic game, I think this is going to be much closer than people anticipate, based on the names on the lineup, because Astralis overall has just been looking like they are actually playing spoiler in some regards. So they have the capabilities, as they did against Rogue almost. So I don't think Vitality should take this game for granted, because if they do, I do expect Astralis to win. If they don't ban, like, for example, Jonghoon's Pike, I do think Vitality could actually be in some very hot water. So I do expect him to ban that. Misfits versus Mad Lions then. Mad Lions should win this. Misfits has been looking very poor. Mad Lions has been looking just solid. And then G2 versus Fnatic. I think G2 will absolutely stomp Fnatic. It sucks because this rivalry is such a good one. But Fnatic has just not shown up, and G2 will want to make an example out of them and make a statement, I think. So, yeah, I don't particularly see anything super exciting about it. Obviously, Wunder versus all teammates, very exciting. G2 likes to play from top side and enable Broken Blade, and Wunder's been a super consistent top laner so far, and has been very good at holding down the fort in top. So that will be interesting for me, just how Wunder's gonna navigate this. Other than that, I think G2 is gonna pretty effectively shut down Fnatic, because G2 has the skill check and they have the aggression, and Fnatic doesn't. They are much more uncoordinated than this. So those are my predictions for this week. Let me know in the comments below who you think is going to win which game, if you agree, if you don't agree, and also which games you are looking forward to. There are actually quite some this week, as I said, right? That I'm looking forward to. Some degree, I'm looking forward to Misfits vs BDS to see how they're gonna perform. Excel vs Rogue will be interesting. Fnatic Astralis will be interesting. Mad vs G2 is gonna be interesting. And then we have Vitality versus Tualis and G2 versus Fnatic. So there's plenty to look forward to. In terms of action, which is a good way to end the first, I guess, third of the LEC before it goes on that weird little break. So that's all for me. Next week there will be another Best in the West and another interview for my channel. So let me, stay tuned for that, and also keep an eye on my Twitter for any interview articles or other articles that I might publish. So that's all for me for today. Thank you very much for watching, and stay tuned for more content.